I'm singing in the rain in Venice.
It's my third trip to Venice, my first in the rain, and it's not exactly the kind of weather we were hoping for. The good thing is that it was intermittent, but to be honest, when we arrive in Venice, it has to be a thrill, especially as Nate and I have great memories of our first trip here. And the last time for me was with Rachel and my sister Sharon and Edward. So we're hyped. And there's the Grand Canal. My philosophy is to make the best of what we have. As Mickey Mouse once said, when life deals you a lemon, make lemonade.
Well, we have an opportunity to shoot Venice in the rain, something we never had before. So it's going to be a new adventure.
Actually arriving at the railway station, this was right where Nate and I stayed. And it was a thrill to see it again and brought back memories. Our first meal was right here. The Continental Hotel where we stayed, even our room up there. And my favorite place in the whole of Venice, the veranda of the Continental Hotel where we ate breakfast and had an excellent latte every morning. But today was a different experience. Rain. Fortunately, Venice is a very interesting place. And simply to walk around, even in the rain, is a fascinating experience. Especially as there's always something going on. The bridges, the boats. This must be the way to the well. Or maybe it's the guest house. And here's the antique shop with old Jewish books. Maybe Maimonides' Life and Beyond in pictures. It was he who said, "Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime." It was Nate who added, "Buy a man an air ticket and he'll fly for a day. Push him out of the plane and he'll fly for the rest of his life." One historic place we'd missed on my 2 previous visits was the fabled Jewish ghetto of Shakespeare notoriety, in which, to be sure, Edward de Vere would never have set foot. The old Italian synagogue, one of 5 in Venice at the time, where Shylock prayed before he converted to Christianity for money. Shakespeare understood human nature. "1589 was the year the Jews were officially welcomed to Venice. This ghetto is where they lived, and this is where they met together each Sabbath." Still raining. Venice in the rain is a new experience. The other place we'd missed on 2 previous visits was Burano, the island of colourful houses and interesting canals. We walked over to where we could board the Vaporetto, the water bus. Nate planned the route, which inevitably is interesting. Venice is like Norway in this respect. Getting there is half the fun. The journey, always enthralling. The place is unbelievably photogenic. centuries-old buildings all around. We're loving it. Wish you were here.
It's not raining under here.
Under the Ponte del Gugli, with the gargoyles. Classic Venice. Memories of past trips filling our minds. Past the ghetto, fun in the rain. I have to say, in spite of the weather, it was very enjoyable. Nate and I shared memories, chatted, planned how we were going to get back to the ship, and looked forward to seeing Burano, whilst enjoying the sights before us. These trips are special. Next stop, Murano, then Burano. I'm looking forward to this. Out into the lagoon. First stop will be Murano, that we visited on our last trip, and then on to Burano.
On the boat to Burano. Burano first.
But before we get the Vaporetto, we get a takeaway snack in Il Caffè Gelato, a great place. Then off we go to Murano first. Enjoying the snack. The lighthouse is the first stop, and there it is. The islands of Murano and Burano are an important part of Venice's history, and the trip out there is fun. Takes about 45 minutes. Time to look around.
Well, just arrived in Burano, and quite a lot of crowds here, but at least stopped raining, and we're looking forward to have a little stroll around.
It's certainly a tourist place, but shops are always interesting. The canals and houses are iconic images of Venice. Burano is famous for its colorful pastel-painted houses that have created extraordinary scenery. It's fun just to stroll around, and certainly photogenic, with interesting alleys, houses, and shops, and of course the canals. And the bridges, always a necessity. So why the colorful houses? To create a beautiful island? To attract tourists? The legend tells a different story. From ancient times, before the great Venetian Republic, Burano was home to fishermen, and the houses were painted in bright colors so they could see their way home when fog descended upon the lagoon. I wondered if they organized the painting and colors. I checked. The colorful houses are actually protected by law. House owners must apply to the government for approval before changing the colors of their houses. The result is an aesthetic blend of colors that is stunning. The story goes that when Leonardo da Vinci visited in 1481, he purchased a lace cloth for the main altar of the Cathedral of Milan. To this day, the lace industry here still flourishes. It is indeed a beautiful place to visit. We were concerned about getting back to the ship on time, but Nate had planned a way to get us back. Opposite, the island of Torcello, believed to be where the first settlers came. So we headed back to the ship. It's 4:10, and I'm apprehensive, but Nate is confident we'll make it. Worst comes to the worst, we'll get a water taxi, so at least we won't miss the boat, so to speak. We have to change boats at Murano. And guess what?
At last, sunshine.
The best part of a Venice visit is the sail away, and it's banned from 2020, as cruise ships are blamed for all the ills of Venice. So this is the last chance, and I've been praying for sunshine. And there's a great sky too. Last shots. We're gonna have to run to catch the train to the ship. It's been a great day so far. I'm really looking forward to the sail away. The sail away in Venice is an extraordinary experience, and yet this may be one of the last sailaways allowed, as a ban is expected. Anything that helps reduce pollution and damage is a good thing. From my very first visit, I was concerned at the state of Venice. It is said that the guardians of the World Heritage Site have allowed it to decay, as it has been doing for centuries. It's even sadder that blame appears to be aimed at visitors and the cruise ships. Venice is to blame. They need to do something about it. After visiting Venice once more, I'm convinced that cruise ships are but one small part of the problem. After all, when Lord Byron wrote his sonnet, An Ode to Venice, in 1819, 201 years ago, long before cruise ships, he lamented that Venice was slowly dying and the Venetians were doing nothing about it. In his day, the canals were used to dispose of raw, untreated sewage, and had been for centuries, and unbelievably they still are. The rain has now ceased to fall. We will sail down the Giudecca Canal and then out into the open sea. Certainly not an easy route, but the Venice authorities planned it this way. The cruise terminal is in the center of the city, not far from the railway station. I would have thought they should have located the port outside of the lagoon and built a railway from it into the city. So there's nothing else to do but enjoy this last glimpse of a decaying city. It is indeed a sad sight. As we passed by buildings, the paint was peeling off. Plants were growing out of cracks in neglected masonry, and below the waterline was black with filth. I fear Venice won't need to complain long about crowds of tourists. The way it's decaying and the way they overcharge tourists for everything, people will surely stop coming. It's sad. I noticed as we were sailing away that many people were actually observing the amazing spectacle of a majestic cruise ship sailing past and taking pictures of it. But it is sad to see the place in such a poor state of disrepair. It's clear that not only the foundations have been neglected. The canals like long fingers touching the center of the city, with hundreds of connecting bridges. More people enjoying the sight of the ship, everyone looking and taking pictures. Approaching St. Mark's Square. In the distance, industrial Marghera polluting the city. Surprising that it was located only a couple of miles from Venice, More people taking photos of the ship. Behind them, an iconic sight. The Church of the Healing Lady, the Salute, meaning health, and also a greeting meaning good health. When military personnel salute one another, its origin is to wish them good health. The iconic St. Mark's Square. Who was St. Mark? John Mark the Evangelist, the cousin of Barnabas, and the one who deserted Paul on his first missionary journey and went back to Jerusalem, and whom Paul refused to take with him on his second journey, causing a rift with Barnabas. Paul felt Mark was a quitter and didn't want him on the team. Mark later learned the error of his ways and travelled with Peter and actually wrote St. Mark's Gospel. And Paul later forgave him when eventually he did the right thing. In St. Mark's Square are two columns, the winged lion of Venice on the right and St. Theodore slaying a crocodile to the left. The Doge's palace coming into view. And to the left here, the Campanile, or bell tower. Behind the Doge's palace is St. Mark's Basilica. Not very crowded today. As I looked down on the city, I was reminded of Venice's colourful past, when its armies sailed into the Mediterranean and left its mark on so many cities and islands that it conquered. Its architecture prominent in so many places that it colonized. It seems wherever I travel in the Med, there are remnants of Venetian rule. This viewpoint enables superb views of the canals. So what is the most iconic view of Venice? St. Mark's Square? The Doge's Palace? The Rialto Bridge, the canals, or a cruise ship gracefully floating through the Grand Canal. So there we are. I've filmed the sail away for posterity so that millions may enjoy it in future without any damage being done to this iconic city. I may never return, but I made a memory for everybody to safely enjoy. So I close with Lord Byron's Ode to Venice, written in 1819, 200 years ago. Even then, a lament on the decadence of Venice. It starts with his fear of sinking Venice. Byron asserting that he, a foreigner, deeply regrets such a thing, and therefore its inhabitants should be even sadder than he. Even then the city was in decay, a great pity, considering its former fame and glory. To quote him, "O Venice, Venice, when thy marble walls are level with the waters there shall be a cry of nations o'er thy sunken halls, a loud lament along the sweeping sea. If I, a northern wanderer, weep for thee, what should thy sons do? Anything but weep. And yet they only murmur in their sleep." Byron in 1819 observes that Venice is in a deplorable state. Even the tourists greet the monuments as mourners. To quote, "No mellower harvest, 1,300 years of wealth and glory turned to dust and tears, and every monument the stranger meets, church, palace, pillar, as a mourner greets." 200 years later, nothing much has changed. Byron concludes his poem this way: "Beholding with the dark eye of a seer the evil days to gifted souls foreshown, foretelling them to those who will not hear, as in the old time, till the hour be come, when truth shall strike their eyes through many a tear, and make them own the prophet in his tomb. As Venice sadly reverts to the womb." We're arriving in Split on the Dalmatian coast of the Adriatic Sea, looking like a protruding thorn in the flesh of Croatia, but actually a jewel in its crown. A city that in recent times has gained a reputation for being a must-see place, and we were already looking forward to it. One problem: it's raining, and a multitude of optimists will be commenting, "That is good, it's a change." So I acquiesce and tell you we're looking forward to breakfast in the rain, though I can assure you it included a prayer for sunshine. And an auspicious look at the sky. What do you think? An omen? A portent? or a curtain about to be lifted and the floodlights illuminate this mysterious new travel stage. New to us, that is. The Jadrolina ferry leaves for Dubrovnik. The hills still have their heads in the clouds but appear to be smiling. The ship behind us, the Morella Discovery, reminding me that I will sail on her next month with Professor Alex. In the meantime, no breakfast is complete without a coffee. 4 shots over ice with double cream. Decadent, perhaps? No, decadent for certain. We've had a week of rain with one bright day, so this is disconcerting to say the least. The good news is one of my favorite things to do is sit and watch the rain, and we've found an ideal place to indulge the desire. Breakfast on the stern, with stern looks on our faces. Coffee is finished. We're happily rejuvenated by the caffeine. The breakfast was divine. The conversation being about the possibility of sunshine, as we can see blue sky appearing on the horizon.
Well, arrived in Split. It's been raining. It's not raining now. The sun is trying to break through, but this is a great place to visit.
So as the rain stopped, we decided to explore this new destination. By the time we got ready, the blue sky was already promising a good day, and the sun had emerged. Difficult to believe how quickly the weather changed in less than an hour.
Would you believe it? After all that rain, we have the sunshine, and we have the day ahead of us, and we're just hoping that it will stay like this.
Our ship is the Explorer 2 and is my favorite cruise ship. We are so happy to see the sun. This is my kind of weather. The ship docks about a 10-minute walk from the city. Split is the second largest city in Croatia, after the capital Zagreb. Croatia being an excellent tourist destination, there being many scenic islands and ports. After hearing me praise Dubrovnik, the people in the know were telling me I should visit Split. It has the great ingredients of history, mystery, and scenery, whilst being different. Even the walk over from the ship was fun and enhanced the expectation. We were immediately confronted by the usual tourist activities, but also the ruins of the Roman palace of Diocletian, still gracing its harbour. In fact, the whole city was a Roman palace. There are certain cruise destinations where, On disembarking, we're immediately in the middle of it all. Split is just so a pleasure to behold, and is one of the best destinations I've ever visited. Some people just sat and enjoyed the views, and no wonder. Ancient and modern appearing side by side. The seafront is a favorite place to sit, relax, have a snack or a drink whilst enjoying the moment. We then entered the ancient city. To be further surprised by its beauty. The quaint buildings at times making us feel we were on a movie set. Its most renowned inhabitant greeted us, Marko Marulić, the national poet, called the crown of the Croatian medieval age. He's the one who first coined the term psychology. The Roman Emperor Diocletian ruled here from AD 284 to 305, and in 293 began the construction of an opulent and heavily fortified palace fronting the sea. The palace was built like a Roman military fortress, and the palace and the city were at times inhabited by a population of 8,000 to 10,000 people. So began our exploration of this fascinating place. Split is certainly different, though in some ways it reminds me of both Dubrovnik and Kotor, though not as popular. It is fast gaining a reputation as a must-see place. For history buffs like Nate and me, it's fascinating, photogenic in the extreme. Hands appearing from nowhere? Nate's theory is that they represent a deity crowning the monarch and establishing his divine right to rule. Typical old city streets. They're almost alleys. The 7th century cathedral of St. Domnius, dominant. This is the peristyle, Latin meaning columns all around, ancient decorative arches that form the center of the Palace of Diocletian, extremely well preserved. The peristyle here is considered one of the best preserved Roman remains in the world. believe it or not, there are still Roman soldiers here. Shooting gets hectic at times. This is a reconstruction of the palace. The peristyle is the hub of the Diocletian Palace, and it's like strolling through history, though we need to get used to the crowds. I love the actors playing the Roman soldiers. I remember being in Xi'an in China, where they did the same, and actors played the part of ceremonial guards, and it certainly adds a touch of interest. There's even an Egyptian sphinx guarding the entrance. The cathedral was formerly the mausoleum of Diocletian. He was the first Roman emperor to retire from office, and he built this palace as his retirement home. Split is near the town of his birth, Salona, modern-day Solin. The opportunity to walk through these ancient streets was a great experience. Occasionally, there were clear reminders of its ancient past. It must have been a spectacular place in its heyday. Time for a snack and a coffee.
Diocletian's palace was used in season 4 of Game of Thrones for a filming location.
Game of Thrones used a number of locations in Croatia. Reminders of it all around. Here was an exquisite place to sit and relax and enjoy a coffee, surrounded by history.
Well, this was a pleasant surprise to have this beautiful sunshine after the rain this morning. We're now in the retirement palace of Diocletian, which was in the early 4th century, and just having a great time.
We then decided to take a look around the cathedral. It is indeed a unique place. Consecrated at the turn of the 7th century, it's said to be the oldest Catholic cathedral in the world that remains in use in its original structure. Built in AD 305 as the Mausoleum of Diocletian, it is the second oldest structure used by any Christian cathedral. The inside is spectacular, the ceiling awe-inspiring. The dome, considering its age, is a magnificent piece of architecture. Our exploration then took us down into the crypt of the cathedral. This is now known as the Chapel of St. Lucy, one of the last victims of Christian persecutions under Diocletian's reign around 304 AD. She was a young Christian girl of a noble and very rich family of Syracuse, who dedicated her life to God, which because of the persecution at that time was very dangerous. The legend states that a young man fell in love with her, but she refused his marriage proposal. He was angry because of it, as he would not be able to receive her dowry. So he chose to report her to the Roman authorities. She was arrested and killed the same day. The legend says she gouged out her eyes in despair and sent them to her rejected fiancé on a plate. They put her at a stake to be burned, but it's said that the fire did not touch her at all. One of the Roman soldiers finally cut off her head with a sword. The Pope later proclaimed her as a saint. This centuries-old chapel, a memorial to her, it was a fascinating place that was an intriguing experience. Then back into the peristyle. Ironic is the fact that the mausoleum that was built for Diocletian is now a Christian church. The adherents of the faith he persecuted now worship God in the place built to remember him. The place where he worshipped Jupiter, now a Christian baptistry. His persecution of 303 to 312 was the empire's last, largest, and bloodiest official persecution of Christianity that not only failed to eliminate Christianity in the empire, but actually strengthened it, and by 324, A mere 12 years later, Christianity became the religion of the Roman Empire under Constantine. It is said his life ended in insanity, with him refusing to eat and sleep as he wandered the halls of his palace and finally committing suicide. We then enjoyed another extraordinary experience, the underground market. Split is not known as a shopping destination, but if you have a hankering to go shopping, then head underground to the Podrum, a labyrinth of vaulted underground chambers right under what was Diocletian's palace, previously used as a storehouse and a prison. Today the main passageway is lined with stalls selling souvenirs and artwork, while ancient history reigns above. Then back to the Riva, the harbourfront promenade, a fun place to sit, soak, relax, and enjoy the harbour scenery and the shops and cafes. Then back into the city, wishing to explore a little more before we leave. We both enjoyed a stroll through history. Even the local spa store was soaking in history. Like many places in the Med, Split is one of those places where just to walk around is a great experience. The narrow alleyways, punctuated by small squares and open-air cafes, and always surrounded by ancient buildings. We loved every minute. I was surprised by the fact that many of the buildings were 5 stories high. Furthermore, I found myself continually looking up. There was so much happening literally all around. Here is actually the original gate into the palace. I love the clock. We then went out of the northern entrance into the park, right outside the northern walls, from where we get a good view of the walls that originally were part of the palace. It's a nice contrast here to the center of town. there's a statue of Gregory of Nin, the bishop who opposed the Pope and replaced Latin services in the church with the Croatian language. The entrance here is known as the Golden Gate. Roman soldiers still guard it. Walking through the streets and alleys is an intriguing experience. Some extraordinary sights. One of the joys of coming here for me was to share the experience with Nate. There's another pair of eyes looking, another mind evaluating the sights. Getting away from it all, sharing new things. Strangely, when Nate and I plan a holiday, the main criterion being it has to be somewhere we haven't already visited. So back to the ship. Past the river, the ancient palace walls that have overlooked the harbour for centuries. My favourite fluffy white clouds on the horizon, adding a touch of beauty. The sea, the most amazing thing on planet Earth, 1,000 perspectives. The ship berthed right next to the city, so it's a simple stroll back in the evening sunshine. It's been a great day. Need to charge the phone? This is a Sona USB charger on the dock, free for visitors to use. Cruising is an adventure. When I was growing up, we had mystery tours where we wouldn't know what was in store for us. A surprise. And though when we booked the cruise, we chose the destinations carefully, we nevertheless did not have much idea of what really was in store for us. So today I feel like we had a magical mystery tour, when the city of Split certainly was a pleasant, even fascinating place that exceeded all our expectations. And when we jumped back aboard the ship, we stood on the deck surveying the beautiful scene before us. It was indeed with a great deal of satisfaction and pleasure that we recalled the day. There's even a nice beach here. We better come back and have a weekend here. Memories were made today. I have to say it was with a twinge of sadness that we sailed away. Split was our final destination, and we were now headed back to Naples to disembark and then fly to England. Though there was one more treat. We were now able to enjoy a day at sea. The Explorer 2 is my favorite ship for a number of reasons, so we were even looking forward to having a day at sea. About to have breakfast and a coffee. Coffee port first.
First thing, nice cup of coffee. Actually, quadruple espresso with double cream. Very healthy, but tastes very good.
Then full English breakfast. And we're literally making our way from Split to Naples in Italy, around the famous boot. After a week of crazy weather, the sun is now shining, and it's a great feeling. Not a cloud in the sky, and even the breeze has dropped. Relaxing is a word that comes to mind. Reflecting is another. We've had some memorable days. And it's on days like this that it's great to be on a good ship. Strangely, the two things I like most about the ship, the coffee port and Nona's restaurant, which had great Italian treats. Having a game of putting was also fun. Right on the top deck, a ship in the middle of the Med has great views, be it for eating, putting, or simply relaxing. We're now sailing through the Strait of Messina, Italy on one side, Sicily on the other. Then an extraordinary thing happened. We passed an active volcano. This is Stromboli, an island in the Tyrrhenian Sea off the north coast of Sicily, Mount Stromboli being one of the 3 active volcanoes in Italy. As we passed by, the smoke rose up from time to time, the sun setting right behind it, causing quite a stir on the ship as everybody tried to get a glimpse. They don't announce it on the ship, as everybody would rush to that side of the ship and it might capsize. What a great sight it was, and to film it in the sunset. Then time for the Last Supper. Where will we eat? Surf and turf? Korala, Asian food? We actually decided to visit the main dining room, had Nathan's favourite escargot and cream soup to start, and roast beef with Yorkshire pudding. Excellent. Treacle sponge for dessert. And as usual, George, our waiter, was excellent. When we woke up next morning, we were in Naples. Unlike the week before, it was sunny. But it's time to leave. Off to the airport. Grab a snack. Board the plane. Another memory.